To 3 on a Friday afternoon. Now, what if you'd been here before? Do you ever think about this? Perhaps you've had a dream or something and you think, oh, I reckon I've been on this planet before I was born this time round. Well, I'm going to talk to somebody now who knows all about this. She's a past life regression therapist, Andrea Foulkes. Now, I was just looking at her website a little bit earlier on, and it says at the front page, it says, only by understanding the peace in our hearts can we achieve peace on earth, where violence ceases to exist and where we respect and honour each other in love and unity. Now, she also says that once you open up your true inner wisdom, life becomes easier and your path a horizon of great potential. Now, this sounds good. How do you get there, then? Well, she offers various services, perhaps using regression, unlocking the secrets of the past, regression into a past life even, through deep relaxation. Well, she's here now. Good afternoon, Andrea.
Hello, Chris. Oh, that's a lovely introduction, actually. That's the best one yet.
I'm dead, I'm dead excited by this idea. And I was racking my brains earlier on. I was thinking, now, could I really give you any evidence of a thought that I'd lived before? And I really can't. But I know a lot of people who can say that they think they've been here before.
I mean, obviously I do past life regression on TV. We've just finished the second series on ITV1 of Have I Been Here Before? And, I started off on TV doing it on This Morning for a year, and then Have I Been Here Before became a series off the back of that, though. But past life regression outside of TV is just one facet of a therapy that I created called Soul Freedom Therapy. I mean, the concept is that we in society, unfortunately today, vast majority of us are looking for answers for our lives outside of ourselves. And what I'm trying to say is, if you start to look for the answers inside yourself, and then we find the cause, which is what going into your subconscious mind is, and open up our cell memory to, yes, there's inner child therapy, so that's looking at the concept that a lot of issues started in this lifetime, which a lot of them do, but then we need to maybe sometimes look further back and look at the concept of past life regression and think maybe the origin started somewhere even further back, especially when we have these bizarre fears and phobias and we don't really understand where they come from.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, just as you're talking there, the only thing I can think that would link me to any other existence is my obsession for water. I love going swimming in rivers. I love going swimming in the sea. Any chance I've got to gaze at a stream or a river or something like that, it really pulls me in. And I sometimes think, where's that come from? Well,
the water in itself is a very healing concept anyway. I mean, even if I do guided meditations, a lot of the time we'll take people to a peaceful setting where water is there because, for centuries we've been going to water to, relax and heal and rejuvenate ourselves, really.
And you were talking a little bit earlier on about getting back into your childhood. I completely understand that because I'm sure, I mean, it's common sense, isn't it, that people who grow up, if there's painful memories in the past, they'll block them off and ignore them. And then perhaps, given the opportunity to get back to them, they will do. I understand
Absolutely. That. I mean, sometimes, the way I work with clients is people think, oh, well, if I can't remember it, then it doesn't mean it, didn't happen. But sometimes it's the things we can't even remember that are creating our issues in the here and now. And there is the concept that we do go back to past lives, and a lot of the people who started off doing past life regression as a therapy were people who were predominantly doing inner child therapy with people or hypnotherapy, and then they found that people were sliding back into what appeared to be past lives. And I've been doing past life regression now for years with people, and it does work. I mean, as a therapy in itself, it works if someone is able to let go enough and go into their subconscious mind. Then by doing regression as a therapy, you can heal issues from it. It's when you just take someone back for the fun of it, it's a bit pointless, really. And also, I'm against anybody who does it in sort of like group settings. That's not very good, and I wouldn't advise that people do that.
Now, I have seen you doing this. I've seen you doing it on This Morning, as you mentioned. That's just a part of what you've done. But why is it, and perhaps this is something to do with the telly, but why is it whenever you regress somebody, they always have a fascinating past life? I mean, why isn't somebody just a boring insect or something sitting on a leaf?
Well, I've never really, the Hindu concept is that we do go back to other lives where we've been animals and things like that. I've personally never experienced that with a client. I remain permanently open-minded to changing my beliefs at any point in time based on experience of working with other humans, really, though. And I think that's the thing with all of us. We should remain open in our belief systems to changing, and I think find ways to be more compassionate and understanding to the rest of humanity, really, though, because I think it's only our sort of like frustrations and fears that create a separation between all of us, really.
But have you ever, regressed somebody to a past life that's dull and monotonous and not like a feature film?
Oh, believe it or not, yes, there are quite a few dull ones where you start chewing your pen a little bit. But on average, most of them are quite interesting. I mean, okay, I have regressed, hundreds, possibly thousands of people. In all that time, I think I've only had 2 people ever go back to any significant figure in history. It just doesn't happen. You don't get what the skeptics call cryptomnesia, which is false memory syndrome. If you take someone deep enough into their subconscious mind, you don't get people going back to being, Cleopatra or whatever. Somebody's got to have been those people. So I remain open-minded that someone out there possibly has been that person. But on average, you don't find that in regression. Most people are mundane, everyday lives, and, most of us were peasants,
Okay, now, so you've done this thousands of times, as you said. You've regressed people. There must be some things that stick in your mind as spine-tingling moments where you've thought, oh my goodness. Tell me about some of those.
I mean, some of those aren't necessarily ones we filmed, and I've sat there thinking, I wish someone else could have seen this now. This is fabulous. Especially when people get speaking in foreign tongues, so they start speaking in the language that they were in that lifetime, which is absolutely fascinating. I had a guy who came to see me because he had pains in his stomach, and he'd seen every specialist known to man, and nobody could understand why he had these pains in his stomach. And when I regressed him, I guide you along this corridor, and we go into these other lives. I mean, there's various techniques of getting people there, but this guy was a very good subject. And before I'd even opened the door for him to go through, he'd gone into this other life and was describing himself as a woman and telling me he was having a baby, and he was going through the contractions of having a baby, which I wish every man could experience that. I think would be totally amazing. But once we healed this trauma, sadly in that lifetime he lost the baby, but he didn't die losing the baby, because in olden times a lot of women died in childbirth, but he'd kept the residue. And the interesting thing was, he'd only started getting the pains in this lifetime when he got to the age of 30, which was the same age he was in the past life when he'd miscarried the baby.
But if somebody speaks another language, then, I mean, that must be proof that there's something else going on in your mind.
And they're like, what is all that about? I mean, they don't even understand why they're saying it themselves. So they come out of it. And you do remember what you said. I mean, you get a very, very small percentage of people. I think over the years, I've probably seen about 5 people who can't remember what they've said. Most people remember what they've said. They don't remember everything. It's a bit like, when we go to see a film, we don't remember every single fragment, every scene of the film, but we take from it what we need to remember. And the same thing happens with regression. You take from it what you need, and you will remember certain aspects of it.
And it's not just somebody chucking a bit of O-level French like Comment Tapal 2 at you. It's a bit more complicated than that.
Oh no, and the other interesting thing is, if they've gone back into a period in history where you ask them a question where it's not necessarily relevant, if they're a very good subject and they've gone deep enough so they're not able to bring this conscious reality into it, because sometimes if people haven't gone very deeply, it doesn't stop the healing aspect, but they're able to filter it through the consciousness of the life they're living now, so they're aware of the phone and words like that. But if you say certain things to some people who've gone quite deeply, and you mention something that's only relevant to today's society and perhaps hadn't even been invented then, like the television, they will say, I don't understand, what are you talking about? Because they have no concept of a television in that period in history.
So, Andrea, does this chuck out all your beliefs in terms of religion then? I mean, would you think, well, there can't be another life beyond this because we just get recycled over and over again?
Well, I think, I mean, once I started doing this, I had a big spiritual experience myself. I had to go and sit in a very dark room for a while and reconsider life itself and the bigger picture, because it changed my whole belief system of how I was brought up and how I saw life and how I'd been told to believe to see life, and I had to reconfigure it, really. So I think it includes a lot of religions, and it's outside of religion as well. It's not a religious thing. I mean, I get lots of people coming to me. I get Jewish people, I get, I see a lot of people from Sri Lanka, a lot of Indian people, I see a lot of English people. So I see all kinds of cultures that they are stepping outside what their religious belief is to do this. And I think it encompasses all and none, really.
Let me be totally silly here then. I mean, if you regress me and I found out that I was a brilliant painter and had a great talent in a past life, would I be able to resurrect that talent now and make a million?
it would, well, no, I mean, I don't know whether you'd make a million out of it, but within potential, it is possible to bring any gifts and skills that you had, and that's to do with the skill of the therapist who brings them back through for you. That if you go back to a past life where you had fabulous skills and gifts, it is possible to bring them through into the here and now.